They told you it was a poison. They told you that if you brought it near your garden, everything would die. Salt the earth, they said, was the ultimate curse, a way to ensure a conquered enemy could never grow food again. But they lied. The they is big agriculture, an industry that thrives on your soil being empty, sterile, and dependent. They stripped the earth of its complexity and sold it back to you in a plastic bag marked NPK. 3 numbers: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. It is a chemical feed drip for a dying planet. They have made you a slave to the laboratory, convinced that nature isn't enough. But 2,000 years ago, the masters of the world knew something we've forgotten. Something free, something hidden in plain sight at the edge of the world. Roman agronomists like Pliny the Elder weren't just farmers, they were survivalists and tactical geniuses. They observed that the most resilient crops, the sweetest fruits, and the sturdiest vines weren't found deep, inland. They were found where the salt spray kissed the leaves. While we are taught to fear the ocean, the Romans embraced it. They didn't just tolerate seawater, they harvested it. They hauled it by the ton to their inland estates because they knew the sea wasn't just water and salt. It was a liquid treasury of 92 elements, every mineral known to man, dissolved in a perfect, primordial soup. Today, the industry calls this fringe science. The Romans called it the secret to empire. Think about your own garden for a second. Look at your plants. Are they truly thriving, or are they just surviving on a chemical life support system? I want to ask you something, and I want you to be honest in the comments. What is the one survival skill or ancient gardening trick you've tried that your neighbors thought was absolutely crazy? Did it work or did it fail? Let's talk about it, because the experts aren't going to help us here. In this investigation, we are going beyond the propaganda of the chemical giants. We are going to unearth the seawater secret. I'm going to show you the botany Big Ag wants you to ignore, the science of how a poison becomes a superfood, and exactly how you can use the ocean to reclaim your food sovereignty today. Welcome to Hidden Soil. Let's go back to the source. History is not a straight line of progress. It is a series of eclipses. We are currently living in a dark age of botanical understanding, blinded by the neon lights of industrial efficiency. To understand why we are failing, we have to look back to a time when the soil was a living legacy, not a balance sheet. The Romans were the architects of this wisdom. In the 1st century AD, Lucius Columella, the empire's most sophisticated agriculturalist, wrote his 12-volume masterpiece De Re Rustica. He didn't view the farm as a factory. He viewed it as a biological machine that required the sweat of the earth to function. Columella and his contemporaries, like the polymath Pliny the Elder, recorded a practice that sounds like heresy to a modern agronomist. They would take olives, the literal lifeblood of the Mediterranean, and treat the roots with a mixture of salt and seawater. They discovered that the bitterness of the ocean transformed the oil, making it richer, more stable, and incredibly nutrient-dense. This wasn't guesswork. This was an empire built on the back of observation. They noticed that coastal plants didn't just survive, they thrived, with a structural integrity that inland crops lacked. They saw that the minerals deposited by the sea created fruits that didn't rot on the shelf. They were building a civilization that could last 1,000 years because their food was built on the foundation of the entire periodic table. But the Romans weren't alone in this seawater secret. If we look across the Atlantic, centuries later, the Aztecs were performing their own miracles. In the Chinampas of Tenochtitlan, the floating gardens, they utilized the brackish, mineral-rich sediments of Lake Texcoco. They understood that the intersection of water and earth was where the highest concentration of life lived. Even in the secluded monasteries of the Middle Ages, monks who were tasked with feeding the poor during bitter winters would use sea wrack and seaweed drenched in salt to fertilize their cloister gardens. They knew that the ocean held a restorative power that the rain alone could never provide. They were tapping into the Earth's original memory, the primordial soup from which all life emerged. Then the 20th century happened, the Great Rupture. After the World Wars, we had a massive surplus of ammonium nitrate, the primary ingredient for explosives. We had to do something with it. So we turned the swords not into plowshares but into chemical sprays. We entered the era of the Green Revolution, led by figures like Norman Borlaug. On the surface, it looked like a miracle. Yields went up. Hunger, for a moment, seemed to retreat. But there was a hidden cost, a silent tax paid by the soil. We replaced the 90-plus minerals of the Roman sea wash with just 3: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. We gave the plants a sugar high, forcing them to grow fast and fat, but structurally weak and nutritionally hollow. We traded the deep, complex wisdom of the monks and the Caesars for a fast food version of farming. The result? Modern fruits and vegetables have lost up to 40% of their mineral content. Compared to what your great-grandparents ate, we are the most overfed but undernourished generation in human history. We look back at these ancient methods and call them superstition, because acknowledging them would mean admitting that our billion-dollar chemical industry is a regression, not an evolution. There is a profound nostalgia in the soul of every gardener for a time when a tomato actually tasted like a tomato. That flavor wasn't a mystery. It was the taste of copper, zinc, magnesium, and gold. It was the taste of the ocean, delivered to the roots through ancient ingenuity. We have been disconnected from the source, told that we need a lab coat to grow a cabbage. But the ruins of the Roman coastal villas still stand, and the wild olives still grow there, nourished by the same salt spray that fed an empire. The secret isn't lost. It's just waiting for someone brave enough to ignore the modern experts and walk back to the shore. To understand why seawater works, we have to look past the word salt. To a chemist, salt isn't just the white powder on your table. It is a broad category of ionic compounds. While sodium chloride is the most famous, the ocean is a pressurized laboratory containing every element found in the human body and the Earth's crust. When we feed a plant only NPK, we are giving it the calories to grow, but not the intelligence to defend itself. This is where the science of trace minerals comes in. The secret lies in the Brix level, a measurement of the sugar and mineral solids in a plant's sap. High Brix plants are the holy grail of farming. When a plant has access to the full spectrum of 92 ocean minerals, its photosynthetic efficiency skyrockets. It produces more complex sugars and proteins. Why does this matter to you? Because most sucking insects, like aphids and mites, have simple digestive systems that cannot process complex sugars. By mineralizing your soil with sea elements, you aren't just feeding the plant, you are creating a biological shield that makes your garden literally inedible to pests. It is the ultimate survivalist hack, a garden that defends itself because its blood, its sap, is too rich for the enemy to handle. But how does a plant drink salt without dehydrating? It comes down to the principle of osmosis. If you dump raw seawater on a plant, the high concentration of salt outside the roots will pull the water out of the plant, killing it. This is what Big Ag warns you about. However, when we dilute that seawater to a specific ratio, we flip the switch. We create a mineral infusion that the plant can absorb through its roots and its leaves. This is known as the Quinton principle, named after French biologist René Quinton, who proved that seawater is virtually identical to the plasma in our own blood. Your plants aren't just growing in this environment. They are recognizing a familiar, ancient friend. They are coming home to the liquid environment where all life began. Now let's talk about how you can actually do this at home. You don't need a laboratory. You just need a bucket and a source. If you live near the coast, you can harvest raw seawater. Avoid stagnant areas or places near industrial runoff. Look for clean, moving water. If you are landlocked, do not reach for the processed table salt in your kitchen. Use unrefined grey sea salt or Celtic salt, which still contains the mineral aggregates we need. The first rule of the hidden soil protocol is the golden ratio 1:30. This is your baseline. For every 1 cup of seawater, you must add 30 cups of fresh, dechlorinated water. If you are using unrefined sea salt, the ratio is roughly 1 teaspoon per gallon of water. There are 3 ways to apply this secret today. First, the foliar spray. This is the fastest way to see results. Using a simple pump sprayer, mist your plants in the early morning or late evening when the stomata, the tiny pores on the leaves, are open. The plant will pull those minerals directly into its bloodstream, bypassing the soil entirely. You will notice a deeper green in the leaves within 48 hours. Second is the soil drench. Once every 2 weeks, Water your plants with your 130 dilution. This feeds the microbiology in the soil. The beneficial fungi, the mycorrhizae, use these minerals as catalysts to build a massive underground communication network. Finally, there is compost activation. When you build your compost pile, spray each layer with your C dilution. This remineralizes your organic matter, ensuring that your finished compost is a powerhouse of trace elements. You will face challenges. The biggest risk is over-application. Think of this like a vitamin, not a meal. If you apply too much, you can cause a mineral lockout where the plant gets confused and stops taking in other nutrients. Watch your leaf tips. If they look burnt, you've gone too heavy. Dial it back. Another hurdle is chlorine. If you are using tap water to dilute your seawater, let it sit out for 24 hours to gas off the chlorine first. Chlorine is a killer of the very microbes we are trying to wake up. Start with your heavy feeders, tomatoes, peppers, and leafy greens. These are the mineral-hungry soldiers of your garden. You'll notice that your tomatoes don't just get bigger, they get heavier. They feel dense. When you bite into them, you'll taste a complexity that hasn't been in your kitchen for decades. You aren't just growing food anymore. You are mining the ocean for health. We are standing at a crossroads that our ancestors would never have recognized. For generations, we have been conditioned to believe that we are small, that we are incapable of feeding ourselves without the permission of a multi-billion-dollar industry. We have been told that the land is a blank slate that only a chemist can fix. But every time you walk down to the shore, or every time you open a bag of unrefined salt, you are holding the keys to a kingdom they tried to bury. This isn't just about bigger tomatoes or a greener lawn. This is about the fundamental reclamation of your independence. When you stop relying on synthetic, laboratory-made powders and start looking to the ancient cycles of the earth and sea, you are committing a quiet act of rebellion. You are deciding that your health and the health of your family is no longer for sale. Think about the world we are building. A world where the soil is rich enough to sustain us. Without a mortgage, where the food we eat actually builds a body capable of resistance, and where the wisdom of the Romans is once again a living, breathing reality in our backyards. The sea has been waiting for us. It has been holding these 92 elements in trust for millennia, waiting for a generation to get tired enough of the plastic food system to come back and claim them. Every drop of mineral-rich water you add to your soil is a stitch in the fabric of a new decentralized food system, one that doesn't need a supply chain, a factory, or a corporate seal of approval. It only needs a bucket, a bit of salt, and the courage to trust your eyes over their advertisements. The path to true freedom starts beneath your fingernails. It starts with the realization that the earth is not a resource to be mined, but a living system to be remembered. We have been playing a game where the rules were written by people who want us dependent. Today, you've learned how to break those rules. You've learned that the poison they feared was actually the cure for a mineral-starved world. This is the hidden soil philosophy. We don't look for the newest chemical, we look for the oldest truth. We don't ask the industry for permission, we ask the earth for its secrets. If you are tired of the industrial lie, if you feel that pull in your gut to return to a more authentic, powerful way of living, then you are exactly where you belong. We are building a community of rebels, survivalists, and guardians of the soil who refuse to let this ancient wisdom die. If you want to stand with us and continue this journey of unearthing the suppressed truths of our world, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications. We are just getting started, and the resistance against the hollow food system starts in your garden. But mineralizing your plants is only one half of the equation. Even with all the minerals of the ocean, your garden can still fail if the house those minerals live in is broken. You can have the best seeds and the best water, but if your soil structure is dead, it's all for nothing. To truly lock in these gains and build a garden that can survive a total collapse, you need to understand the architecture of the underground. In our next video, we're going to dive deep into the world of biochar and the terra preta, the lost black soil of the Amazon that stays fertile for 1,000 years without a single drop of fertilizer. You don't want to miss that one. Go out there, get your hands in the dirt, and remember, the shore is calling. We'll see you in the next one.